Good morning, everyone. My name is Anshul Sood. I work with Global Center of Excellence for Digital Supply Chain at SAP. I welcome you to the session and I hope you are all safe and coping well with the current pandemic. Let me start by sharing the agenda. Sales and operation planning could be a great differentiator. It can help you improve responsiveness, achieve higher fill rates, and basically optimize inventory. Today we will have our customer speaker Rahul Kale, General Manager John Deere, share his experience and lessons from IBP S&OP implementation. Our partner SBP Consulting will take us through more details of sales and operation planning and also show a system demo. SBP Consulting also has a package services offering. We will go through some of the details of this package offering services for the IBP implementation. To start the discussion, these are some of the comments we have heard from customers. This is part of news all around us. This is basically what we are all living through. Manpower availability, material availability, logistics, all are on top of mind of our customers. We have observed manufacturing plants are running at 30 to 40% of the capacity. We have seen unprecedented demand surges in certain categories, be it for dishwashers, vacuum cleaners, or sanitizers, certain pharmaceutical products, some particular food, ready-to-eat products. And supply chains have gone hyper-local. Certain production sites may or may not be operating, and planners need to check and replan or check the resource availability frequently. It's like almost every day. It is not about a long-term plan anymore. It is about what do we do today, what do we do in short term, and what best information is available to the organization. So how do we respond? There are some actions that need to be immediately taken, like health and safety of employees. We need visibility across supply chain and available production and transportation capacity that has to be utilized in the most optimal way. This is the need of the hour. Further, with these disruptions, we have all recognized that optimizing own operations can only take you so far. The next priority would be to extend and reach out to the supply chain partners. And that means it is customers, suppliers, equipment manufacturers, service providers, transport carriers, and together as a network, there is a need to collaborate and execute supply chain digitally. In future, we are all driving our respective organizations towards bigger goals: sustainability, customer centricity, and productivity. At SAP, we have digital supply chain portfolio that can help you in all of these areas. What are your supply chains today and tomorrow? We have solutions spanning end-to-end supply chain. We call it design to operate. With design to operate approach, we can seamlessly connect business processes. We can take advantage of the intelligent technologies, be it IoT, be it artificial intelligence, be it machine learning, and we can create a digital mirror of entire value chain. We have solutions from designing new products and services, assets, and managing them through entire life cycle, from planning to manufacturing to transportation, warehousing processes, and ultimately operation in the field. From this view, let's click further down on planning. What are the common challenges? At this point, I would request an input from you. Amit, if you can please share the poll questions. Before we go deeper into the planning, I just wanted to get an input from you, our participants, on what are the issues you observe in supply chain planning in your organizations, and what are the type of issues that you are going through. So before we go further in, what are the common challenges around supply chain planning, which impact the ability to sense and respond? With typically what we have seen is with data silos and low trust in the underlying data, it is very difficult to be able to manage changes in demand or handle the supply disruptions. If there is data latency, and by the time you're able to gather and process data from multiple systems, and it's time to take decisions, by that time the underlying data would have changed. With so many changes and a dynamic environment that we are living in, data latency becomes a major issue in getting end-to-end supply chain visibility. On top of that, collaboration done in multiple Excel files with complex formulas become very difficult to scale, very difficult to manage. All these issues mean a slow response to the changing conditions. This means having either too much or too less of certain products. The inventory management particularly becomes very challenging. And these issues can cause significant impact on your balance sheet. Towards the right end, I'm sharing some of the areas that get directly impacted by the quality of planning or by having these issues in the planning challenges. We are talking about direct impact on the service levels, order fulfillment rates, the working capital. If we have too much, straight away leads into inventory write-offs, especially for the products which have low shelf life, and the cost of production and transportation itself. If we are having to shift around SKUs, we have too much in one DC, too less in another DC, this is straight away going into the cost of production and transportation itself. To help with such planning issues, we suggest you consider SAP IBP for supply chain planning. SAP IBP is an intuitive, easy to use planning application using Excel and web user interface, and it can help you improve your ability to anticipate bottlenecks, identify potential alternatives, and overall improve responsiveness. You can leverage end-to-end supply chain visibility, and you're able to align at strategic, tactical, and operational levels. With many easy to use features that you will hear about in subsequent sections, business users will feel in control of the planning application. You are able to plan frequently, that is balance demand and supply at a frequent rate. The key aspects are, if I have to put it in 3 words, it is to make supply chain planning easier, smarter, and faster. With the Excel and web interface, if the planners are able to focus on profitable decisions straight away, an example could be 29% less stockouts. It's a simplified user experience. The planning becomes smarter with demand sensing, inventory optimization, with using algorithms like DB scan, K-means. It's about providing not only the alerts or thresholds, but auto adjust the threshold with changing demand and supply patterns. It's faster. The need of the hour is to be able to do daily planning runs. And if we are able to align the master production schedule, the prioritization of demand on a daily basis, it straight away means 14% higher on time fill rates. So what is the value of IBP solution? This is an indicative list of benefits in different areas of revenue, operational cost, and working capital. One example I can share with you, Lamb Weston, a food manufacturer, was able to reduce their safety stock by 18%. For them, the payback period was 6 months. Lennox observed 90% less time in data collection and improved working capital. So straight away, we are not only talking of reducing planner time or improving efficiency. This is where straight away we are impacting the top line revenue growth or impacting the inventory carrying costs, the redundancy costs as well. So this is the value of the IBP solution. We have around 700 plus customers globally using IBP solution across 28 industries. This This is an indicative list of customers who are using IBP solution as S&OP process, demand planning, or other modules in IBP. Let me share a video that will explain various supply chain modules in IBP, and you will also hear from our customers on their experience and feedback in using the SAP IBP solution.
Supply chain planning becomes increasingly complex. To deal with uncertainty of demand and customers with highest expectations on service levels and delivery times, systems and processes need to be perfectly synchronized to manage today's world and tomorrow's reality.
What we were looking for is a software that enabled one version of the truth, one unified plan where all of the demand and supply was contained in one system.
To reinvent your supply chain network, nothing surpasses SAP Integrated Business Planning. SAP IBP is cloud-based and consists of several independent components, so simply start with what is most important to you. Many customers first deploy the core of the solution, sales and operations planning, to effectively balance demand and supply. Or they implement the demand component to gain full transparency of short, mid, and long-term demand forecasting using machine learning AI. But there is much more.
We're implementing response and supply. And really for us, as part of our transformation, we found value in the short-term demand and supply balance.
Response and supply lets you create operational supply plans, respecting capacity and material.
Until the video is playing, not sure if you're not able to view the video.
Actually not.
Okay, I will try playing the video again towards the end. We'll continue with the presentation.
Okay, thanks. So we will play this video towards the end of the webinar. For now, let me invite Rahul Kale, GM John Deere India Pvt Limited, to share customer perspective. What is his experience in implementing IBP S&OP at John Deere? Thanks for joining us today, Rahul. Looking forward to hearing more about ongoing journey of IBP at John Deere. Over to you, Rahul.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Achal, for the introduction, and welcome everyone in today's discussion. So, I'm just going to go through a brief introduction on what my role is and what we do in India from a Deere & Company perspective. So I lead the sales and operation planning, sequencing, production, configuration, and new product management for John Deere in India. I am the factory order fulfillment lead here. As far as Deere & Company goes, it's an 180 years plus organization. We are the world's leading manufacturer of agriculture and construction equipment. In India, we started our operations in 1998. And we manufacture tractors and combine harvesters over here. Our markets are not only India domestic, but we also export to 110 plus countries around the globe. We have tractor plants in Pune and Devas, which is central part of India near Indore. And we have a harvester manufacturing facility in Sarhind in Punjab. Overall, our supply chain consists of more than 200 plus suppliers with 10,000 plus parts, and we offer 30 plus unique models. And when it comes to fixed configurations, these translate into 1100 plus fixed configurations. So before I go into what sales and operation planning is for us, I just want to talk about what we try and achieve out of sales and operation planning. Our objective when we enter sales and operation planning is to balance assets and availability. In situations, we prefer to have availability over assets, but typically what we end up with assets being heavier and a low availability. Now, this brings us towards motivation in terms of how we can do and restore the balance between assets and availability overall through the sales and operation planning process. One of the motivation is to go away from the data silos and complicated Excel sheets and try and bring in structure and a degree of automation to the sales and operation planning process. We do all our products as make to stock, so forecasting is a central piece for us, and having an ability with historical data to do a statistical forecasting is absolutely important. Additionally, the values of looking at alternatives and coming out with a better decision in times of uncertainty like these is absolute must as well. All of these needs to happen with a very reduced turnaround time. We don't want to do what ifs for a week. Furthermore, whatever work we are doing, we also want the context available later so that we can do analytics and reports out of it. So we started our journey with IBP with these motivations in mind, and there was not a concept of a fixed tool in mind. So with these motivations, initially we started with a pilot process, and you're going to hear from SBP later. They partnered with us in this pilot. What it helped us is understand our own process, understand the transformation needed to go with IBP and what kind of work we need to do. And most important, it answered the question that will it work for us. We are now into the implementation, and the couple of points which we have worked on is making sure we have a robust data stream going into the tool, making sure most of our stakeholders are trained and understand the new paradigm, and we eased it to the tool, making sure that the transition from the older methods is smooth. I want to talk about the current scope which we have implemented. So we have a interface into SAP IBP solution from our ECC system through CPIDS. So we currently have S&OP planning module, and we are actively considering the demand module at this stage. We are utilizing the JAM for collaboration, and as Anchal mentioned, we have the front-end Excel tool utilizing IBP on cloud. So that helps us collaborate and look at one single source of data as we work through. What features at this point of time we have? So we have the basic navigation planning features which are listed out here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we have the analytic abilities, alerts abilities, jobs and integration to ECC. From a planning perspective, using an Excel-based front end, we have the planning views, customization in those planning views, and definitely templates and favorites of a particular Excel view we would want. Sales and operation planning is the module which we are using at this point. Going into more details, the kind of supply chain network, and this is a representative diagram over here. I wanted to give you a flavor of the complexity with which we have maintained the network and utilized IBP for doing so. As I had mentioned earlier, we have 1,000+ fixed configuration manufactured, and I'm talking about tractors here, manufactured in 2 plants in Pune and Devas. And we have a complex distribution channel going through our customers, which can be the export customers in 110 countries or domestic customers all throughout India. And I would also like to mention a cross-plant transactions, which we also do between the 2 plants. So this complex supply chain network is something which is the basis with which we have maintained in IBP and utilizing IBP to plan across. After we have maintained the network, what are our goals? So we look at, again, as I had talked on earlier, trying to balance between assets and availability, and doing so in a dynamic, complex, rapidly changing world is critical. So the network which we have maintained helps us understand what kind of asset goals we are looking for, how is the supply of product going to be, and gives us as an output what is our production schedule, what's our inventory plan, and what is our shipment. This complex balancing across different scenarios is something which we try and achieve through the sales operation planning, and we will be using IBP to do so. Simply doing a production schedule is not enough. We have a lot of different products in a lot of different plants which run on various different manufacturing lines. Typically, all of us would want a leveled production, looking at what are the capacities we have on the production line, looking at what are the constraints we have across production line as well. So something which we do with IBP is also use what we call leveling and integrate the constraints with our production schedules by trying to balance across line and across constraints. Ultimately, once we have worked through the sales and operation planning and come out with a balanced level production, what is the leverage which we are looking for? So we are trying to move from a manual Excel based process which has its own data silos, which have multiple versions, into a structured process which has data integrity and one version of truth. Excel with front end typically is much more powerful rather than individual Excel sheets on computer, and enables analytics, data integrity, and forecasting capabilities. Ultimately, if today we have an Excel sheet which is worked out manually, doing a what if and a scenario exploration is extremely challenging. What we are looking for is a smooth capability of doing so utilizing IBP. Ultimately, this leads to a reduced turnaround time, and our target is weeks to days, and something we are on track of doing. After going through the pilot and being in between the implementation phase right now, what are our learnings? What we feel is extremely critical is making sure that we understand the process which we have and don't start with a tool in mind. The other aspect which I would like to talk about is typically every organization has its own lingo or a language with which we talk about for S&OP. If understanding and learning the standard language which IBP uses helps translate better and understand better in terms of what we are trying to do. Having people on board early, integrating them early is also extremely useful. In our case, definitely running a pilot helped bring all the stakeholders together, helped understand the benefits which we stand to gain. Ultimately, what I would also like to talk about is we have the S&OP planning module at this stage, and we are actively considering the demand module as well. But it's better to understand all the modules you need upfront, which would give a much smoother implementation. So from John Deere, I wanted to share today these aspects of our experience and our ongoing journey with IBP. And with that, I would like to hand over further the flow of the webinar, and Aanchal, over back to you for taking us further.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. The insights and observations you shared are very relevant. I'm glad to know that S&OP was first step towards integrated supply chain planning at John Deere and on the IBP product itself. And I wish you all the best for this ongoing journey. Thanks for sharing your experience. Now let us get into some more details of sales and operation planning from our partner team, Prodwin and Ashok Sirupa from SBP Consulting. So we'll go through a brief introduction to SBP Consulting and then get into IBP S&OP details and a system demonstration. Prodwin, if you can please share and proceed with the discussion.
Hello everyone, I'm Prajin Reddy, Divisional Head SBP Consulting India. Hello everyone, I'm Prajin Reddy, Divisional Head SBP Consulting India, and I would like to give you a brief introduction about our company. SBP was founded in 2004 and we have our offices in India, USA and Canada. We are SAP Silver Partner and SAP recognized expertise in manufacturing with over 16 years of industry experience. We are CMMI certified company. With expertise in various business modules, we have worked for a variety of industries and their business processes in different countries. Let it be an automotive industry or high-tech industry, we have the capability and experience through the entire development life cycle from requirement gathering to deployment, support, and later upgrades. We follow SAP guidelines and best practices along with customer standards. About our technology services, for ERP and S4, we cover all the three areas of technical, functional, and basis with experience of multiple implementations, rollouts, and support projects. The recent demand is in the area of migration to S4. With SAP Cloud, we have developed mobility applications to customers as well as for store. We also incorporated machine learning into ERP data to provide an enhanced information with user-friendly and summarized layouts. Our expertise in SAP includes IoT, API management, mobility, workflow, and web application development. We provide end-to-end delivery services for SAP Hybris Commerce, either on premise or on cloud. With respect to digital supply chain, we have a strong presence in SAP IBP and implementation experience in ME, PLM, and MII. As Rahul mentioned, we have been closely associated with John Deere throughout the implementation process, and with multiple implementation experience with different clients, we have come up with IBP for manufacturing package, which Ashok will be talking in some time. We have various modules of client engagement with primary options of implementation, T&M, and resource outsourcing. Please refer to our website sbpdigital.com for more details. I will now hand it over to Ashok.
Ashok, before you proceed, just a message for the all the participants. If you have any questions, you can please type them in the question window on the platform, and we will be discussing Q&A at the end of the discussion. Thanks, and Ashok, you can please continue.
Sure. Can all of you see the S&OP overview screen that I'm sharing? Until
it's visible.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks everyone for joining the webinar, and thanks Rahul and Anchal for giving an overview of IBP, and Rahul especially sharing the implementation experience. about S&OP. So we will quickly kind of go through the S&OP and then show you in the system is what the system is capable of, or what is the look and feel of the system. And then we'll also talk about the package solution that we have. Hello? Yeah. So we were talking about S&OP. Sorry, got muted. So we were talking about separate plans and then moving from separate plans to having an integrated plan. So it becomes a single source of truth based on which you can do a decision making, what if analysis, and respond as quickly as possible to the changing market conditions. So this is being the objective for developing a plan. And what SAP IBP solution provides you is gives you that environment where you can achieve the integrated plan on the what we have on the right side. So before we go, this is like a standard S&OP process, and we know it starts with the data gathering, demand planning, supply planning, executive S&OP. So some of the requirements that you have, which is you need a system that has the ability to plan for your supply chain network with your customers, with your locations, products, various product hierarchies. You should be able to do your supply planning to look at your resources, transportation. So we have all these requirements that are part of S&OP, and SAP IBP solution provides the platform. And if you look at while you're running your S&OP process, you also have a need where you have to orchestrate the process. It's a structured process. And Rahul and I, we are working on the project. Rahul has mentioned he mentioned that having a tool in place, before you have the tool in place, you need to have a process in place. But then the process, once it is in place, has to be orchestrated in a very structured manner. So that is what the SAP process provides, is a structured way of executing this S&OP process. Did you get the demand? Did you get the history? Did you do the forecasting? Did you get the collaboration? Did you get the sales input? If not, send the tasks. All that type of a process orchestration happens in the SAP IBP tool. And the collaboration, we cannot overemphasize the need for collaboration, is with all the participants working and have a common way of communicating the messages, tasks, reminders, delegation, sharing the workflow. All that is also supported by IBP. We talked about what if analysis. We want to quickly simulate changing the demand, increasing or reducing the demand, and run an end-to-end analysis, not only looking at the demand changes, but what is the impact on the supply side? Do you have capacity? Do you have transportation capacity? So how do you do those analysis? SAP IBP S&OP solution allows you to do that. And we will also get into the screen and see, okay, we have the plan. What does it mean in terms of your revenue, your gross profit? You get to convert your operations plan into a financial term. So you have SAP provides the environment where you are able to pull the data from various sources to come up with the average selling price, and come up and convert your demand plans and your constrained plans into revenues. So it's a very, very flexible tool that SAP has developed, and it is on the SAP Cloud Platform. So it becomes accessible from anywhere. So we'll go to that and trying to just position what does standard S&OP process, how does it fit into the core modules of IBP? Rahul mentioned in his lessons learned, understanding the modules was one of the key lessons learned. The reason why it is such an important lesson is before you start the journey of IBP, you need to understand what is the scope, where do you start, and knowing that SAP is S&OP is a building block. Anshul mentioned as a building block. Yes, it is a building block, but you want to know that you can build on top of it. So here it talks about the integrated business planning goes beyond S&OP, where you are able to look at your demand that's happening short term, do your demand sensing, bring it into the S&OP process. Then once you do your S&OP process, now you have orders, and now you want to get into the system, and you want to do allocations, you want to do look at backlogs and understand act on the execution side. So SAP IBP provides you the solution which takes beyond your S&OP into and ties it with the execution. And it also has the inventory optimization, where you want to understand where should your inventory be close to your customer. So there are several modules, and I can go on and on about the various modules of IBP, but again, that is something which we can talk in detail later on. This is to kind of give you an idea that S&OP is a building block, but SAP IBP is much bigger than what we're going to see today. We'll quickly go into the demo, the system demo, to kind of give you an idea about what it looks like. And what we're going to show first is show you in the demand planning side is when we are doing the demand planning, you see that you have a business plan, and the business plan could be at a product family level, product series level. Marketing comes with a different plans. So you have inputs coming from different streams and at different levels, different aggregation levels, and then you want to bring everything together. How do you do that? And then what SAP allows you to do is gives you the ability to bring everything together. And I'm going to bring the SAP slide pretty quickly. And one of the other input is the historical plan, and you can bring the historical plan, compare your actuals versus forecast, your performance and your accuracies. You can do all those as part of the demand planning exercise. So here is how it looks like. I'm still in the PowerPoint. I'll be getting into the Excel pretty soon. So when you are in the Power here, this, as you can see, this is the Excel which the planners like. They would like to most of the S&OP systems that we have heard are using Excel. Rahul mentioned that they also had multiple Excel sheets with complex macros, VBAs running their S&OP planning process. SAP has given you the Excel as a front end integrated with the cloud platform with all the data in one place. Now you see that there's a look and feel. It's almost, it gives you a very flexible way of selecting the attributes on what dimensions we want to look at. It gives you various key figures, and key figures are like what we would normally talk about: quantities, whether it's a sales forecast, marketing forecast, inventories, revenues, price, sales, revenue. So that we can go on and on with so many different calculations that are part of your S&OP. And then you have your quantities and currencies. You have unit of measures. So we have multiple ways of handling the quantity information. And then when you look at the time buckets, you see it's a very flexible way of, here is an example where we have structured the sheet, the planning sheet, in a monthly buckets with the quarterly, with the yearly, and you set it up right. And so you can also set up the system to go down all the way to the week level, because when you're doing your inventory planning and you're trying to have your projected stock as part of your demand shaping and demand balancing, which Rahul mentioned, is how do you come up with your inventories and your supply. You do your supply at least at a weekly level. The system gives you the ability to get down to that level where different time buckets going down based on the scope of the planning. So let me go into IBP here right now. Okay, one second. Let me bring my sheet. Sorry. Okay, so I'm in Excel. So this was just a markup of what I have. So this is the real SAP IBP system. And I said, we have the various attributes, the key figures, and then you notice is there is an SAP IBP ribbon over here that gets added. It's part of the installation process. and it integrates with your Excel version, and you see it comes in with a various ribbon over here, which are all the IBP functions that we have. So then here, if you see, is we can have a very easy way of navigating, and there's a easy that it is actually managed by the users. So in terms of the implementation, after the implementation is done, it is the power users. It is Rahul at John Deere. It is his team. It's not necessarily the IT team. It is the business team that owns the templates, works with what layouts, what should I need. So they're really not dependent on IT in fine-tuning or managing their process. This is the flexibility and the power of SAP IBP solution. So here, if you see, I can have multiple attributes. See, and these have been designed, and some of it comes with the package content, which we'll talk about later. And how do we plan for various products, location, customers, resources, transportation, carriers? We have multiple entities that we have. So depending upon what you're looking at in your supply chain process, we are doing at a demand level right now. So what we have is logically select, okay, what are my product series, what's my product group, a customer group that I'm looking at, and then we look at, oh, these are my key figures that I chose. Now, if I want to bring in a consensus demand, I can bring in a consensus demand quantity over here, just select it, and then it shows up. Or then you can do the various layouts. Then we have the filters. So again, when it comes to the filters, not everyone is going to be working on all the products. So there are going to be product groups, product owners, and you're working in a global environment like John Deere. They have Asia, they have US, and all other locations. So you'll have different groups working in the system. So you need to have authorizations and security on who gets to see what and who can change or view. All those things are defined using the SAP IBP roles and authorizations. So the template can be the same, but each person, each role works with their own data. So this is a quick view, as I was talking about, is we have the ribbons, we have the various filters that we can create, and then I'll go into the planning notes pretty quickly. And the other thing that you can do is also SAP allows is when you are working, the planners love spreadsheets, and then they want to take the spreadsheet and they want to work offline. Yes, you can go offline and you can work with it, and when you make your change, come back and sync it up, and it updates the cloud, and you have updated the system. And then if I'm going here into the revenues, so if you go here, now look at it, its system is changing from dynamically updating my content. So a planner loves to work with multiple worksheets. So here we have various sheets with various context that has been put here. So you see I have revenues here, and I can do a drill down. So a couple of ways to do a drill down. The planner can just right click here and then say, oh, I want to just drill down, and they can just add another attribute after, and then I can choose. I want to do a product family. So okay, I want to drill down. I'm at a series level. I want to go down to the product family. Look at how easy it is. You open the product series, open the product family, then drill down, and then now you have your all the information, your revenue, sales forecast, whatever we have, will come down at the family level. So here it is. So I just drill down the drives into the various types of drives, the HVAC drive, the industrial drives, and now I'm able to get to here. So very, very flexible from a Excel perspective, and from a supply chain network is this IBP solution. Let me quickly bring another view here into Excel. So here, this is an illustration of a network. So what Rahul showed in his network with so many different products and configurations, depots. So this is a view straight from the IBP system where I just picked up one of the product, and you can see the definition of IBP is truly an end-to-end network that you get to work with. So this is an analytics in IBP, which I just brought it up. So you see I have all my customers, customer groups is being fulfilled from my distribution centers. So you see there's a stocking distribution centers. Then I have goes from a warehouse. I can define the manufacturing plant, and then I can define my work centers, and it can go all the way up to the external suppliers. Design the network, you plan for the network, and then get your demand, and then it goes, all the demand that you have goes all the way from the customer level all the way to the external supplier. That end-to-end process is supported by IBP. So once we go to the demand side as well, like while we are working on the demand, and now if I go into my consensus demand plan over here, and when I'm here in my demand plan, so here I mentioned about the various key figures that we have. So we can bring in the statistical forecast, the sales forecast, the marketing forecast, the local demand plan, and these are all right now. This is a view we have set up for the demo, which allows you to say that I can take the various inputs and then come up with a demand plan, and all of these are converted into currency, where we are able to bring in the price, so that always look at demand and the currencies. So as I mentioned, these are all authorization based. Not everyone has access to all the key figures. And then when you are doing the planning, I'll get into the simulation pretty quickly, because that is such an important part of your IBP, is doing your planning, and then you also want to do your what if. So as you can see, the system is very, very flexible and gives you the power to the user from an Excel. And then you can also bring in the graphics and, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It had to happen, right, in any demo, but yeah, we get a graphics over there. So then the other one, what we wanted to show you is in the current environment. Anshul mentioned several times, and Rahul mentioned about changing demand, and you want to do a what if simulation. So if you have to do a what if simulation, here is a plan that we are currently working with. The various demands are out there, and what we call this as a baseline version. And then now we want to say that, oh, let me see what would I do if I have to increase a demand for a particular product, and then see how do you do that. So now here is an example. So what we have set it up here is, if you see, just to do a filter over here, we have this products and the demand planning quantity is here, and I'm going to create a scenario. Here you see here, I can create a scenario, and so I'm going to call this as demo what if, and then I'm going to say HVAC and HVAC, sorry about that, HVAC increase in Q3, or say in Q4 2020. And I can share this scenario. I'm just setting up a scenario right now. All I gave is a description, and I can share with all the demand groups. So when I'm sharing with my demand groups, these groups are set up for the supply group and it's a demand group, and who do I want to share this group, so I don't have to send an email message to each person. So I can we set up the various groups, and then when I do it, they all get the communication that, yep, a scenario has been created, this is what we are doing, please go and evaluate your supply side, you'll go and look at your demand side and see if this scenario is something that is accomplishable or not. So then all I set up here is a scenario, and what I'm going to do is look at your HVAC, for example, and once this is set up, now to see the system is created what is called a scenario, and I can then compare the scenario with what is called the baseline. Baseline is the one which is active, and now I can choose to compare. Okay, I want to do both my baseline and do here. Now you see that the system is now going to have the demo, the baseline version is going to be equal to the what if scenario that I'm creating. See that I have the same scenario over here. So then now, if I want to increase it, I can just change this. Let's say I'm going to put this at 200, 200, and I'm going to have 200. So then if I do that, and I've just increased, I've kept everything else the same. It's the only thing that I changed is for the HVAC for this industry, I've increased it. Now I can just do the simulation. So, and then I can just do a quick simulate here. And now what the system would do is it will see that the HVAC, the what if scenario, the revenue should change. See that? Now you see the difference, because the system updated the demand quantity, and all calculations that were part of this increase that I did have been updated. And then the power of SAP IBP solution is I made a change in my demand, and now I want to communicate to the supply. So then what we do is then we run the operator, like the heuristic. And when we run the heuristic here, these are the various heuristics that are available. We can do heuristic optimization, and then now I can choose to run here is my heuristic for the scenario. By the way, also run it for the baseline and also run it for my HVAC. So what the system will then do is take your demand, increased demand that I have, and it run it through the whole supply planning process, and everyone gets to contribute and respond to this scenario. And then once the scenario is analyzed, and we'll show you it in the analytics how those analysis it can be compared with, then you then come back and say, okay, now we did the analysis, and now what do we want to do? We look at the managed version here, and if we want to say that, yep, we analyzed it, and now we think this looks good, and I think we can promote this scenario into an active version, which means make these changes as part of my scenario, and then we'd go and just do apply the changes, and now this scenario is now part of your baseline. And then when I refresh it, oh sorry, I didn't save my plan earlier. I should have saved it. Yeah, that was my mistake. Yeah, so when I'm making the change, here it is. So what we have set up here is we had a scenario, and then we upgrade the scenario and promote the scenario to go into yeah, I'll promote that, apply changes. Yeah, there you go. So we had the 200, did a what if scenario on 200, and I promoted my scenario to an active version, and now that became part of the baseline. So what we just went through right now is we walked through the a demo of the network ability to look at the demand, get the various inputs, aggregate, disaggregation. We can do that with the flexible time periods, create a scenario, simulate a scenario, adopt a scenario, is what we went through. And then I'll go into the supply side as well. So let me go to my PowerPoint here. Yeah, so we went through the functions. Yeah, and there's one more. I wanted to show you one more thing that we forgot when we are here. Is there is a functionality. When you're making a change in the system, you want to capture notes, because planners like to create notes. So here is, we actually have a functionality where you can actually edit a note, add a planning note, and say demo planning notes. Now this is not stored in, this is not an Excel note. This is a note that is added into IBP and goes into the HANA database on the cloud. So any planner that looks at it, it reads those notes from the database, HANA database on the cloud. So you have communicated, you have made this change, all the notes are all maintained over here. So here is, and then the system tells you where the nodes are, and there are functionality that you maintain the nodes at a SKU level, but you want to see at a product family level. Yes, you can do that. Nodes are really maintained at multiple levels, and you have the option of looking at a higher level. So very flexible. The SAP has really thought through in terms of what the requirements are from a planner, and it has incorporated as part of the solution. So coming back to the PowerPoint, and now if I go back, and now if you see, we walk through this, walk through that, then maintain the overrides, and then now let me get into the supply planning. So when we go into the supply planning, again, the objective of your supply planning is you have your demand that has been provided as part of the consensus demand plan process, and then you compare that with your historical, is what is your on-hand inventory, what is your production performance, delivery performance. You do take those into account, and then take into account what are your operational working hours, shifts, capacities. Look at your bills of materials, routings, bring in at a high level. Again, we are doing sales and operations planning and not running an MRP. So when we work with the implementation, Rahul had created for John Deere a very high level aggregates. In his example, he talked about how we have an engine, a tractor assembly plant, and they have two lines. One is an engine assembly and a transmission assembly. When you're doing your analysis, you have to check not only for your main product, but also the feeder lines, which is your engine and a transmission. And again, even within the transmissions, you can have multiple types of transmissions. So all that information is defined at a high level, at an aggregate level in terms of capacities and constraints, and modeled. And then when you run the simulation and when you run the demand plan, you are able to validate really quickly in the system to understand what is the total demand that you are having on your products. So creates a whole production plan, resource plan. So I'll kind of quickly go through what we have, and let me show you a quick the supply plan. Second, let me move my other sheet. Yeah, so here is an example of my supply plan. And one more, I have to bring it. Bear with me while I'm moving my screens here. Yeah, so this is a quick overview of when you do the supply planning. The system talks about customer demand, the transportation, the production, what is my inventory. Rahul talked about leveling the capacities, looking at the seasonal demand and how do you do the demand shaping. All those functionality has been enabled at John Deere, and is part of the SAP IBP solution is what we do. So we do that, and then at the end, we look at the various segments of your supply chain, look at your capacities, and as I said, we can go all the way up to the external capacity and then make the analysis. So here, what the scope of supply planning is, it has a heuristic. It's not a group of macros or Excel functions. It's a full-blown algorithms designed and developed by SAP, and it's a time series functionality that is tightly integrated as part of the S&OP module. And yeah, you can then define what's your safety stock, target stocks, period coverage, what is it that you're intending to cover. It comes with the full functionality to enable. And then here is an example, is like we had two what if scenarios. So one what if scenario, which I just showed you in the demo to use, but here is another example to just show that we had created another what if scenario. And in that what if scenario, we ran the whole heuristic. And then here you can see that for some of the work center, like in this case, I have a machining work center, and you have my requirements have gone up. In this case, baseline was 90%. And now if I have to adopt my demand, then my capacity requirements are going to go up. So then before I promote my scenario to active, this is where the decision making takes place. And when you discuss and resolve and saying that, yeah, this is within my range, I probably have to do something because it's a 19% increase. So you check, and then when you have your meetings, you make a decision that, yeah, we can fulfill the 19% increase and we have ways to handle it, and then you promote it. So the what if scenario, which is so important right now in the current environment, is very efficiently enabled in the SAP IBP solution. And that's what we wanted to show you in the system. Okay, and then let me going back to my PowerPoint. So yeah, I talked about this, and right now we showed you the production, but you can also define warehouse capacities, transportation capacities. You can model all of them in the system to calculate what your requirements and your bottlenecks are. Then coming back to the analytics, so SAP has the web UI, and when you do the web UI is you can design these analytics. So let me show you in the system, and here it is. I was showing you the network, but here is my dashboard, and you can define the various graphs, you can have the bar graph, line graphs, compare last year's history versus the forecast, sales forecast versus marketing. This is all designed and maintained by the users, by the power users. So Rahul and his team does not need the IT again, even for setting up this analytics. They are fully self-sufficient to manage this. And we go through the process of educating them. And here is just an example where I did my analytics, and then I want to do my analytics with my base version and my what if scenario version to say that, okay, I can include two versions and include in my analytics. So very powerful. And these analytics are again designed, and we put all those analytics together and form a dashboard. And then the way it works is you can set this dashboard, and then when the planners come in, they just choose their products or their resources, their locations, and they get a visualization of the dashboard for their products. So very, very flexible in terms of what you can do in the system. Okay, so that's what I had, in terms of the demo for as far as the system is concerned, is what we can do. And what we have covered right now is, if you look at it, we covered some of the basic navigation. There's a lot more functionality, and this by no means is an exhaustive list of IBP functionality. It would be, it will need several sessions to walk you through all the capabilities, but hopefully our goal was to share what is some of the core functionality and give you an overview of what IBP is capable of. So yep, so we talked about the Fury, the analytics dashboards. We walked you through the Excel. As I said, it's an Excel front end. You maintain the data, change the data, get alerts, filters, notes. You do all those things in Excel. You can do your scenarios, simulations. We can do various views. Again, the views are set up based on roles and functions. So, and depending upon that, we set up the views with the key figures, with the attributes, with the time buckets, with aggregation levels, and then you use it. So several functions, templates can be defined and shared. And the other thing which we didn't get to show you was, once you create a template, you share it with others so that everybody doesn't have to sit and create the same configuration, same layouts. You create a template and it is released for all the users in the system. So very, very powerful as far as the system, what it is capable of. And right now what we have just talked about is only the sales and operations planning module, where We just talked about the demand planning, the supply planning, doing the collaboration, doing the process integration, orchestration. We didn't get to show the process orchestration, but that's also standard S&OP process. But in future, when we do set up, or especially when we are working with John Deere and other clients, we do take quite an effort and to understand what are the other modules that you would likely be implementing in the near future, so that you don't want to redo the implementation, you want to build upon it. So we go through that process, and there are other modules which we can talk later. So that is some of the key functions that we demonstrated. Hopefully you get an overview of what IBP is capable of, what it can do from a sales and operations planning perspective. So that being said, you looked at it, there's a lot of functionality, a lot of integrations. Rahul presented the slide on how he's bringing the data from ECC S4, or we're bringing the data from a non-SAP systems in some cases. And yeah, and you have a need to make these things faster, and then how can you get there sooner? So with that in mind, so we have developed, SBP Consulting has developed a package service, as Anshul mentioned, this is designed for an accelerated implementation. So what we have is we understand from a manufacturing environment where you have all these different you do have lead times, sales channels, what if collaboration, those are all there. But the ones that are kind of unique for in the manufacturing environment, you have new product introductions. How do you handle that? You have substitutions. How do you handle that? You have multiple products and various configurations. Rahul mentioned they have over 1,000 SKUs with different configurations, and that configuration is proliferating. You have more and more configurations that are coming through, and because customers want their unique requirements with their own configurations, how do you handle that? You have bills of materials with multiple levels of change. How do you handle that? And then you have manufacturing, you have your heat treatment, machining, you have external operations, plating operations, and then that's all your manufacturing processes. You also have assembly lines where you are tact-based planning process. How do you handle those? Machine requirements, labor requirements. So we understand this environment where when we are working on your S&OP project, a lot of these things have to be addressed. So what our team has done is, with our experience, we have put together some of these processes and have our own accelerators that have been put together with our strong experience in the space. Like Prudvin mentioned in our demo, we have a strong integration services, technical services. So we have a team that fully understands the ECC S4 and integration to IBP. So we have put things together so that it is easier for you, where the implementation is simplified. Oops, sorry. And you get a rapid realization of your value. So you start a project and then you can get benefits pretty quickly. And so the template that we have designed is scalable, because we know there will be something which you want to get started, but you want to make sure that you want to add more features and functions down the line. Then this gives you a starting solution that you can build upon. And it is driven by the business. And as I said, we have worked so closely with Rahul and his team, and they drive. And this package solution helps in accelerating, because we work closely with the business and IT team to get you the rapid implementation. And the good thing about this SAP IBP solution, it's a cloud solution. So, and it works with your current ECC or S4 or your non-SAP systems. You can still use that, and it does not interfere with your S4 plans if you have any. So you can start now, and you are still future-proofing your investment with SAP IBP solution. So you don't really have to wait to get onto your S4 journey. You can start now, and that's what John Deere has done. They are on ECC, they have an S4 plan, but they didn't wait till their S4 plan. They are using IBP and getting the benefits. So we have this put together, the solution for you, so that we can save time and get implement faster and realize the value sooner. So yeah, so we have we go through a discovery process. We talk about a pilot. Rahul mentioned multiple times is the significance of the pilot. It is through the pilot where the use cases were well defined and the business really knew what exactly they are going to get, and we did not go full-blown configuration until they saw the pilot. So we did that, and that was very, very effective for the doing an implementation and keeping the mind of it's a global implementation, even though we are starting with the India operations. So in terms of the industries, the solution does cover several of the discrete manufacturing, automotive, and IM&C. Today's session is about manufacturing. So we are only focusing on IBP for manufacturing, but we also are working on an IBP for CPG industry, and which has its own requirements, unique requirements for CPG. So we also have that, but today's focus being this, I'm just talking about exact package solution. So again, comes with the several accelerators. We have our own methodology. We follow the sprints, agile methodology, where you're continuously working with our team, understanding what functionalities developed, and then you deliver based on the sprints. Every 2 weeks, you start seeing something, an output. So continuous engagement with business and IT. So we follow that process, and then you are able to realize a benefit. So many business process, all the core business processes are there, and we have the package solution is available, which we know we can always talk in more detail. And when you have any questions, we will be glad to answer and give you more information. So that's all I had. I don't know if I rushed it through, but if you have, we'll address it in our questions.
Thanks, Ashok, for walking us through this very interesting system demo of S&OP. While there are many relevant functions, features, right, but we could pack this much in our discussion today. I think these are very relevant features for the environment we are going through. So just wanted to summarize, IBP being a cloud solution, you are set on the path of innovation, right? There are smart, powerful algorithms. We make it easy for planners to focus on the profitable decisions. So there is one version of truth. The whole organization, whether it's sales, it's marketing, it's finance, it's production, logistics, everybody has visibility of sales and operations plan as a one version of truth. To make it easy for planners with this interface and the offering of IBP, planners need to only focus on the profitable decisions that they need to take. With IBP solution, they don't have to spend time hunting for information, working through Excel files, or spend time in this data collation activities. You have the information in front. For management team, they know the information from their dashboards, what is happening now. And you have ability to save the snapshots, right? So any analysis you want, it is in the system, visible to whoever you share with based on your role. And the sole function of customer for a planner is focus on managing a frequent plan, responding to the changing conditions, and really get the data required to take decisions. So thanks, Ashok. This was a very interesting view that you helped us walk through. Next, I would request Amit to play the video, which we were trying at the beginning of the session. Let's give it a try again. Hopefully everyone will be able to see. And then we will proceed towards a quick poll and a Q&A section.
Supply chain planning becomes increasingly complex. To deal with uncertainty of demand and customers with highest expectations on service levels and delivery times, systems and processes need to be perfectly synchronized to manage today's world and tomorrow's reality.
What we were looking for is a software that enabled one version of the truth, one unified plan where all of the demand and supply was contained in one system.
To reinvent your supply chain network, nothing surpasses SAP Integrated Business Planning. SAP IBP is cloud-based and consists of several independent components, so simply start with what is most important to you. Many customers first deploy the core of the solution, sales and operations planning, to effectively balance demand and supply. Or they implement the demand component to gain full transparency of short, mid, and long-term demand forecasting using machine learning AI. But there is much more.
We're implementing response and supply. And really for us, as part of our transformation, we found value in the short-term demand and supply balance.
Response and supply lets you create operational supply plans, respecting capacity and material constraints, and perform what-if analysis to respond to changes. To deal even better with supply chain uncertainty in your planning, make use of the inventory component. It sets forward-looking inventory targets across your complex supply chain.
In order to provide the premium experience to the customers, we needed to have an understanding of where our products flow in the supply chain at any point in time in real time.
To get a perfect end-to-end visibility, we introduced the Supply Chain Control Tower. It provides smart alerts and analytics with what-if simulation capabilities that help you to make the right decisions.
We've been able to take that heavy lifting from planning and the really cumbersome spreadsheets, Excels, those types of things, and get it into a much more visual process for the control tower.
We're seeing $300 million of working capital improvement with a 5% increase in our on-time in full measurements. Our service levels are going up. Our inventory levels are down to support the same end customer demand.
The best thing that the IBP platform enables us to do is leveraging concepts like machine learning, real-time data analysis, predictive analytics to be able to anticipate the market demand for our premium product portfolio.
SAP Integrated Business Planning. Turn challenges into opportunities.
Thanks, Amit. So hopefully everyone got a good view of IBP S&OP modules as well as the value for the business. What problems is IBP going to solve for you? Let's go through a quick poll question and then we proceed to the Q&A. We have received some questions from the audience. We'll go through them. And Amit, if you can please project the